In our quest to find the truth, the inner truth, where do we search? Do we search in the place where there is light, or we need to search in the place of darkness and be our own light? I know this is kind of a little puzzle, but then think about it and let's get back to it shortly. Hi, welcome back to OneUs. Today it is day 52 and we will be looking at verse 52 from Tao Te Ching. As usual, let's observe a few seconds of silence. Alright, so now let's get started. The verse 52 begins like, "The beginning of the universe is the mother of all things." From the first verse of Tao Te Ching, we know the nameless is the origin of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of 10,000 things. So here, Laotzu refers to the same thing. The mother who gave birth to all of creation in the whole cosmos. So that's why it is the mother of the whole universe. And then Laotzu goes on to say, knowing the mother, you also know the sons. Who he is referring to the sons is the entire creation. The manifested ones, we call it as 10,000 things or anything that we see in a whole universe. It can be planets, stars, you, me, living, non-living, being, non-being, everything which is created, it is from the mother who he is referring as sons. Then he goes on to say, knowing the sons, yet remaining in touch with the mother, bring freedom from the fear of death. So, when he talks about knowing the sons, he means that we need to see things, all of the manifested things, and be in touch, be in awe with all of the nature and creation. However, we should also stay in touch with the mother. We just need to hold on to the mother, just like how a baby or the child, he always hang on to the mother, though the baby loves to play around with the toys and things around it. And that way, we always believe that the mother is with us. So we don't have to have a fear of death. And the other way to see this verse is, it is like a return trip. So we were one with the mother in the beginning, and the mother gave birth to us. And that is why we take in a human form and experiencing this life. At the same time, the truth is, even after our death, we go back to the mother in a way that we go back to the source. So that way, we never a separate entity. We are all come from the same mother and then we all go back to the mother. So that way, we don't have to fear death. And Laotzu goes on to say, keep your mouth shut, guard the senses, and life is always full. When you're talking about keep the mouth shut, we know that the universal sound or the universal voice is silence. There is no words, but yet it communicates all the time in silence. That's why Laotzu says, keep your mouth shut. Don't speak, don't share your thoughts, opinions, and even your ideas. In whatever it comes, instead, be a good listener. Say few words. Be a good listener. Don't talk nonsense. Be an observer. And when you're talking about God the senses, we know that when we excessively explore our sensory pleasures, it can be anything like bodily pleasures or the food, the drink or the music or the television, it is nothing more than a distraction and then which can take us away from connecting to the inner stillness. That is, take us away from staying in touch with the mother. That's where Laotzu says, so don't go excessively obsessed with the sensory pleasure, rather guard the pleasure so that you are always full. And then he goes on to say, open your mouth, always be busy, and the life is beyond hope. When you open your mouth, when you are not careful with what you speak, then you invite trouble in your life. Likewise, when you're always busy pursuing the sensory pleasure, then you lose the touch with the mother. That way, the life becomes beyond hope, which he means is The life is hopeless if you're purely enjoying sensory pleasure. And how I see these verses, the whole of human experience also involves enjoying the things in the nature, enjoying things. Though it can be through our sensory pleasure, it is important we enjoy things. However, just that we should be moderate about it, not just overly indulge in any of forms of sensory based pleasure. Instead, stay in touch. Don't overboard, don't go excess, keep things in moderate. So that's how I see this verse. Seeing the small is insight. How I see this line is, seeing the small is insight is, we need to observe the tiniest thing in the whole of creation. It can be small insect, it can be small plant, it can be anything which is insignificant, which we ignore most of the time. However, when we start observing those smallest creation, then the whole mystery is within them as well. The whole of life is with them. So that way we can gain our insight. And the other way to look at this is from a scientific perspective. When I say scientific perspective, the science split things and goes on and on and on to find out what is the n component. First, they identified atom, they broke the atom, and then they found electron, neutron, and proton. And further, they found out there is something called quarks, and then further, they identified something called neutrinos. The neutrinos are essentially a matter which doesn't interact with human beings or any other matter, and then it can pass through us at this very moment, and also it filled in the whole of universe. It is which is abundant in nature. So that way, when we go below that, when we break it down in the smaller things, we can get our insight. And then he goes on to say, yielding to force is strength, just like water. The water just yields. It doesn't fight with us. We can use all our force and energy to hit the water, but the water just yields and get back to its state. However, the water is also a strongest force. Just the other example is it can be like a gravity. The gravity is kind of a weakest force in the whole of universe. However, the gravity holds everything, a whole planet and whole system, the solar system and galaxies together. And that's how I see this line, yielding to force is strength. Then he goes on to say, using the outer light, return to inside. Sometimes, if there is a darkness, we may imagine things. We get scared of things and then become too much imaginative. And then we can come up with our own theory of what we see in the darkness. So to get out of the darkness and see things clearly, we need to bring an outer light. And that's how I see this verse. And also one quick example to share or illustrate this point is, it is called street light effect. So it goes like this. Once there was a policeman who was crossing a busy street. There he found another man searching something below a street light. Then he asked the man, "What are you searching?" The man replied, "I'm searching for my keys." So the police officer generously offered his help and searched for the key for 1 hour. And after that, the policeman is kind of fed up, and then he asked the man again, "Did you really lose your keys here?" For that the man said, "No, I lost the key in the dark park." "Then why are you searching here below the street light?" For that the man responded saying, "Because the park is dark and there is a light only here below the street light." So this example is to illustrate that how sometimes we are so ignorant that we know we need to find the truth. We know that we are searching for something. However, we search in the wrong place. Wherever there is a light, we believe that can give us an answer. Just like some new teacher or some course or some book can bring us all the wisdom that we need, and then we can get enlightened in a day. It is a very false way of seeing things. And that is why Buddha said, be your own light. You don't need teacher, you don't need books. Yes, to some level they are important to help us come out of ignorance, but beyond that, the journey is for you and me to be our own light, go to the darkness and then search with the inner light, instead of blindly searching somewhere where there is a light. Instead of that, we need to go into the darkness, be our own light and search for the truth. That's how I see this line. Then Laotzu goes on to say, and in this way be saved from harm. The moment we find our inner light and then we search for the truth, then no one can harm us. And he ends the verse with, this is learning constancy. In the other translation, it is also practicing eternal light. So when we practice our eternal light within, then we don't need to rely on the thoughts and ideas and philosophies of someone. Rather, we can be our own guide, and then we can seek the truth within. With that, we come to an end of verse 52. And one actionable thought for today is, be an observer. When I say be an observer of nature as well as yourself. It can be like, when I'm talking about the nature, observe the minute creation in the whole universe. It can be small insect, plants, even a grain of sand. Observe it. Notice how marvelous is the creation is. Just be awe with entire creation of the smallest thing. That way you will get your insight. And the other way is look inwards. The whole body, it is a small universe within each one of us. That way we also know that the whole body, it doesn't function with just us. But there are so many bacteria. For an example, a gut bacteria, which lives in billions and billions, which is essential for our whole digestion to take care of our own self. So that way, the moment we start seeing the whole nature and within us, then we understand that the whole secret is not somewhere. It is all within us in an observable place. With that thought, let's conclude day 52 and then talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.